Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm so glad you're here with us today, whether you're listening live or on the replay. I'm your host, Linda Joy, publisher of Aspire Magazine, the premier inspirational spiritual magazine for women, as well as the founder of InspiredLivingUniversity.com, a sacred curriculum and community for women. Be sure to get on the wait list for when the doors open again. So, I have shared my story so often about how I found my way back to myself, right? And I love bringing you conversations that help you enhance the quality of your life and help you live from the inside out. So I have to tell you, I believe it's time for all of us to amplify our intuitive superpowers and allow our souls to lead the way. And as my friend and guest says, when you hear, trust, and follow your inner wisdom, that's when you'll discover your soul's path, a path that leads to the joyful, authentic, and abundant life you desire and that you deserve, my friend. I'm so excited to have Carolyn McGee here with me today. We've been connected for quite a while. I love her message. I've been following her for, it's got to be 7 or 8 years now. She is a master intuitive teacher, coach, and healer, and is known as the Angel, Animal, and Intuition Oracle. She's taught thousands of professional, corporate, and entrepreneurial women to trust themselves and their divine intuition so they can show up in their full power in business and in life. What I love about Carolyn's story is that she has a background of over 2 decades in high tech. So let me tell you, she knows firsthand the importance of living from this beautiful blend of her masculine and feminine energies, your right and left brain, right? So welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you, Linda. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, you and I have known each other for a long time. You know I love your message, but I've always been, from when we first met, when I published your story in Embracing Your Authentic Self, I was always amazed, maybe because it was my own personal journey of learning how to connect with my intuition. You're pretty open that you had that, that kind of left-brain career. So I'm amazed at, look at the work you're doing now, right, as an angel, animal, and intuition oracle. Take us back to that time period when you were living in that energy, and what led you to this path that you're on now, because you're helping people change their lives.
Yeah, it is a fascinating story, and it even amazes me sometimes when I go back and review it. As a young child, I was very connected to spirit, and I had a traumatic event that shut me down, and so I stopped believing, or I was afraid to believe. The dynamics behind it don't really matter. But then I turned to the logical piece of me, and by nature, I am very logical. I am very analytical. Math and science were easy for me. So it was a safety thing for me moving into that energy. And it was encouraged, by my family because it's a safe way to do business or to get involved and to make a difference in the world. So I went to an engineering college. I got a technical degree and moved into high tech for many, many years. But what I found was I was reading people's energy, consciously sometimes, unconsciously sometimes. And I knew in negotiations if somebody was telling the truth. When the engineers were talking about layouts or designs, I knew there was something that wasn't right. I couldn't tell you technically what the whole story was, but I could say there's something not right in this, and then people could go and dive into it deeper. And over time, people started to trust what I was saying because I was proving it over and over again. And after many years, I was let go from a company and really guided at that point in time to do something for myself, to make a difference in the world and to be more empowered for me. And that's when I started my pet care business. You know, animals are a huge part of my journey, and being around their very grounded, centered energy helped me expand my intuition. And then my next phase was stepping into empowering other women to be able to use their intuition to make decisions and to radically shift their life.
And that's when our paths crossed, you know, way back when. When you started. I've known you as long as you've had the pet business, because you have a highly successful pet business. But our paths crossed when I noticed you were working with angels and intuition, and I was like, oh, because I was drawn to all of that. Still am, but I was on my journey too, like you were, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then when I learned about your background, and usually, you know, we hear it in personal and spiritual development all the time. It's, oh, she's left-brained or she's right-brained. Well, I'm finding out, and I used to fall for that because I have a sister that's complete opposite than me, right? So I identified one way as a creative visionary, and she was always, you know, the type A, the opposite. So she grew up believing, Linda, I can never be creative or intuitive like you. And I grew up believing I can never have the analytical side. But the truth is we are both. We just become disconnected, I think, from either one. What is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think, you know, intuition and spirituality, it's really like a muscle. You know, I call it my faith muscle. And the more we practice it, whatever we practice, that expands. So, you know, in my family, the dynamics were very similar. My sister was, you know, very creative, was a journaler, and, you know, was encouraged to do the arts. I was encouraged to do the science. It's like we each had our lane. And, you know, as I started writing my books and getting myself out there, I realized I can be more than that. And, you know, my sister has her gifts that she has expanded into, and it's deepened our relationship to have all of these intersections in our energy instead of being these two separate containers, so to speak. So I believe that anybody can open up and shift what their focus is and expand it. Now, is everybody going to, you know, be writing a New York Times bestseller? Maybe not. Maybe that's not their path, but it doesn't mean that they can't journal and expand their energy through creative writing.
Exactly, and that's how I just kept nurturing. I used to believe I wasn't intuitive. I thought there was it was a gift for some, but I realized it's a connection we all have, right? And I love what you said. It's like a muscle that you have to keep practicing. And you know me personally, so you know I live my whole life now through guidance. Yeah. I just trust. Yeah. But I had to build my trust muscles like you kind of did back in the corporate days when you would get these feelings and you started sharing them with others. At first, when you first started sharing, did you have that feeling of like, oh, my God, what if this isn't right? And then as you shared more, you began to trust.
Absolutely, yeah. And, you know, for me, at that stage in my life, I was highly dependent on outside validation. So I had so much fear about saying even, you know, what my favorite color was. I mean, I had really allowed myself to be very conditioned into fitting into an expectation versus what do I expect, what do I need. And it helped me tremendously as these people that I worked with started to ask my opinion because I was right with a high degree of accuracy. You know, and sometimes they couldn't find something, but does that mean they didn't look hard enough or it wasn't there? No one knows. So I just started trusting myself, and then I gained confidence, and I would say more things, and it just helped. It helped me succeed in my job.
I love that, and I think that's a lesson for all of us to take, that we have that divine guidance system that's always there trying to lead us. We just have to lean in and listen and trust.
Yeah, and learn how to interpret it. Our bodies are such a beautiful, energetic system. They're the physical way that our souls interact with the world. And I look at it as our intuition as kind of that filter. So, what's going on in your body when something is happening? Do you feel safe? Do you not feel safe? Do you have anxiety? Do you get excited? Those are all filters that we can use to know we're either stepping in the right path, or maybe we need to spend a little bit more time analyzing things. And I do still analyze things. My brain is a really powerful ally, and I'm friends with it. It's a big benefit to being able to shift from one energy into the other.
No, I think that's a sacred gift. And when we come back from our first break, I want to talk about, I hear that the animals came into your life, right after your transition from high tech. I want to hear how the angels and everything else started to unfold that led you to what you're doing. So we'll be back in a moment. I'm with Carolyn McGee. Learn more at carolynmcgee.com. We'll be right back.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Inspiration for a woman's soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hey, America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America in your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. With me today is Carolyn McGee, Master Intuitive Teacher, Coach, and Healer. So, Carolyn, as you started working with the animals, which you still do, and I agree, they are so grounding, and they help you stay in the present moment. That's what my pets do for me. It's like in that moment they crawl up into your arms, they're just asking you to be present. That's all they want. So how did you transition into angels and all the beautiful work that you're doing now? Was it just organic, part of your journey?
It was definitely organic. I grew up, I guess, a holiday Catholic.
Me too.
So we would go to church, Christmas and Easter. And one of the things that I really resonated with was the beauty of the angels and the stories in the Bible about the angels. It gave me a lot of comfort. And I always loved, the statue of an angel. And I loved going into churches and seeing angels. And I had pictures of them, etc. So when I was really deepening my spiritual journey, I found myself just being more and more drawn to what I thought was just the imagery of angels. And a friend of mine said, hey, I saw this angel healing circle. Do you want to go? And I went and I met, our mutual friend, Elvia Rowe, and I felt like I came home. It was just a beautiful set of, I call them angel winks now. I used to call them coincidences of, leading me and using an energy or a visual that I felt great comfort in so I could expand and then step into the next phase of my journey.
I love it. And like you, it was probably about that same time I got certified as a angel card reader. I was yearning for that connection to my source, to all that is around us. So it's funny because our journey, the timeline is pretty similar. And it was this, and I still, like you, I have my cards. I see that you got a new deck recently, too. I had that one I got that last year. I was watching your Facebook Live, which we'll talk about in a moment. So as you did that, I know you've kept your successful pet business all these years, but you stepped into really speaking, holding in-person workshops, doing a lot virtually. You have contributed to Aspire Magazine. You've spoken some of my events as well as others. Now it feels like I can feel it. You're on a mission to help women embrace their intuitive superpowers.
Yes, it's something that's so central to my soul. It's part of what gets me going every day to make that difference. I, like so many other people who are really passionate about their work, I don't want people to have to go through the long journey that I went through. I have shortcuts now. So that's what I want to do with my teaching and with the workshops that I do and the classes and the coaching. It's how can I shorten somebody's journey through that pain of the learning experience, because we all go through it. It's for our highest good. And how can I support them so that we're raising the vibration of the entire world to more consciousness, more love-based, more connectivity.
Oh, I so agree. That's why I love your work. And one of the things, too, is I believe, this is my belief, and I believe it's yours, but let's share your thoughts, is I believe we all have the gift. Like you call it intuitive superpower, right? I believe we were all born with it. Then we go through the human experience, and the connection gets a little mucky, kind of like staticky when you drive out of the range of a favorite radio station. Mm-hmm. And I've come to find that our role in this lifetime is to do the inner work to clear that channel. And so do you also believe that we all have the gift of intuition? We just have to have the tools like you're teaching people now, right, to clear the frequency.
Absolutely. It truly is. I like to look at it as a gift because I do believe that it's a gift that we're all given. And
I do too.
Just like some people will get a gift and set it on the shelf and never use it, that's what energetically the place where certain people are in, where they've got it, but they put it aside. Or maybe they've got it, but they don't really trust that it's good for them or they know what to do with it, so they play with it every once in a while and then they put it back. Or, they're stepping in and they're expanding it a little bit, but they're still afraid to take that action to amplify it and to practice that muscle. So there's so many different energies that people are in, but I absolutely believe that we all have that gift.
Me too, and I had a conversation about maybe 3 months ago. I think it was someone on my show, but she had been in my circle for a while. And the conversation just went about intuition, and she said, she's similar to you, Carolyn. She has that background, but on top of it, she comes from a family of doctors and scientists background. She said, Linda, I know now I was intuitive all my life, but I shut it down just to feel loved and accepted and not different. Mm-hmm. Can you relate to that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel a lot. They're afraid to embrace that part of themselves, which is a natural part of themselves because it's a gift from the divine. Mm-hmm. But they're afraid because they want to not be different. But I want to say, honey, that's not the difference. The difference is the way the world is right now, right? You have a gift that's meant to be a part of you. What would you say to someone like that that's afraid of feeling different or feeling judged or not fitting in their family of origin?
Yeah, boy, that one is a really tough one because, we all care about our families, and sometimes they're just not accepting about what we do. When I first started doing this, my kids had a really hard time with it. I am divorced, and their dad is very logical and analytical and probably more agnostic than anything else. So the thought of something being bigger was something that, they were having a hard time accepting, especially because I was just starting to accept it. And, my own family was, you're making up stuff. You follow a certain path in order to be acknowledged. That was a big piece of me going to school and being on the honor roll, was I got acknowledged for that. And stepping into being different was really challenging for me. And I think it can be hard for other people, but something that has always helped me with that is we're all unique.
Yes.
We all have our own special sauce. We all have our own unique flavor, bit of spice, whatever it is you want to term it. There is no one in the world like you. There is no one in the world like me. Every single person has something to offer, and if we're not offering it, then somebody else is missing out on the potential of our gift. And
it's so true, and I love that you said that about we are already unique, right? Yeah. So when we go into it with that energy and that vibe, how I finally shifted is I said to my family, listen, the way I've been navigating life sure in the hell hasn't been working, right? Because I was a queen of self-sabotage and just couldn't get out of my own way back in my 20s and 30s. So when I woke up I think it's going to be 28 years now, I had my awakening or epiphany or moment of hitting bottom. I said, I'm going to go do the complete opposite. Instead of living in fear, I'm going to live in trust instead of this. And what happened is I finally said to my family, I need to do this for me. And if you love me, and accept me, then fine, but it's not going to change my path. And what happened, and here's the funny part, I'm curious about you too, Carolyn, as I just honored myself, without dishonoring them or their thoughts or beliefs, I just stepped on this path of healing from the inside out, which meant tapping into my intuition. Guess what? I found joy, inner peace. Guess what they do? They all come to me now. Mm-hmm. Because how did you find inner peace? How did you find joy? And I'm like, all the stuff you busted my ass on for all those years? That's the stuff. And so now, some of my family members have angel cards. They watch the videos I send them, and I'm like, okay. So did you notice that too? You live by example, and those around us are drawn to our light.
Absolutely. And, I think I went through a dark night of the soul also around the time that I was going through my divorce, and I became very, very depressed. And I realized it was because I didn't know who I was on the inside. So I had this depression because I wasn't authentic. I wasn't expressing myself. I was trying to, literally killing myself, trying to be something that I wasn't to keep other people happy. And so I wasn't happy. And, in the very beginning, I got a lot of pushback, from my family because they wanted me to be happy, but they wanted me to be happy in a way that they could control or they could understand.
That's a big one.
It is a big one. And, divorce is a really difficult thing, too. And it just happened that was my awakening time frame. And it was hard on the family. So, there was additional pressure to conform, to try and fix it, to take extra responsibility. And along that journey, I realized that I can only do what I can do. I can't change anybody else. I actually can't make anybody else happy. And that includes my family. That includes my friends. If I'm not happy, then I'm not going to be successful, and the rest of the relationships really don't matter. And by really acknowledging that, I did see a big shift. And now, my mom's like, when are you doing your next Facebook Live?
Oh, my God, I love that your mom watches. What a transition. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to come back. We're going to take a break, and then we'll come back, and let's talk about what you're doing. And then I'm going to have you share some of your strategies and tips. I am with Master Intuitive Teacher, Coach, and Healer Carolyn McGee. I invite you to visit her website at carolynmcgee.com. And we'll be back in a moment.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
It's time to amplify your intuitive superpowers and allow your soul to lead the way. When you hear, trust, and follow your inner wisdom, you'll discover your soul's path, a path that leads to the joyful, authentic, and abundant life you desire and deserve. Master Intuitive Teacher, Coach, and Healer Carolyn McGee is known as the Angel, Animal, and Intuition Oracle. She has taught thousands of professional, corporate, and entrepreneurial women to trust themselves and their divine intuition so they can show up in their full power in business and in life. With a background of over 20 years in high tech, Carolyn knows firsthand the importance of living from a blend of her masculine and feminine energies. If you're ready to embrace your intuitive superpowers, visit carolynmcgee.com to learn about Carolyn's supportive programs and offerings.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTR-FM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
You're listening to Inspired Conversations. We're having a juicy conversation about intuition, trusting yourself, breaking out of the patterns that I think we all hold on to feel safe instead of honoring our soul. And what you were saying, Carolyn, right before the break, about we can't make anyone else happy. But so when we work on healing ourselves and our happiness, and I can relate to something else you said, when you said your divorce, you woke up, right? It's that moment, and I think a lot of women are going through it right now, might not be divorced, but they're waking up in the middle of their life, usually in their 40s and some in their 50s, saying, how the hell did I get here? They don't know who they are. They don't even know what kind of eggs they like, like Julia Roberts in that Runaway Bride. And it's because they've lost themselves and their connection to their source, to their intuition. Does that kind of encapsulate what you were feeling at that time?
It absolutely does. I remember at one point in time somebody saying, well, what's your favorite color? And I answered with my ex-husband's favorite color because that's what he liked me to wear. And then, but at that point, I'm like, I don't even like that color. There was this like awareness of how conditioned I had allowed myself to become. And you really, it's so much healthier for everybody. He and I have a great parenting relationship. My children are healthy and can express themselves in so many different ways now because I stood clear for what I am and who I am and how I want to have an impact on the world. And now they've got two really strong parents that have radically different viewpoints on the world, but they're both making a positive impact using their own style. And
like owning their truth and their values and who they are, and just because they're different, they're not wrong. And I think that's what happens.
Yeah.
We label things different than us as wrong, and I think the world does that, not just us. But if we look and say, like for the example, your ex-husband has his own sacred gifts, that you can even see that tells me you've done a lot of healing, right? Because I've gone through divorce, so I know that feeling. But to be able to witness him and to own your own truth and not say one is better than the other, one is wrong, it's embracing your gifts and sharing them from a place of wholeness.
Yeah, and I think when you have children, or if you're a teacher, or you're mentoring people younger than you, when you're really in your power, when you own who you are giving them the gift of stepping into who they are. Like I mentioned before, we're all unique. We all have these beautiful gifts to bring out into the world, and whether it's art or whether it's science or creating food or being the best mom you can possibly be. All of these gifts are so needed. And if we're forced into doing something, or we allow the energy to push us into doing something that's not right for our soul, the world is missing out.
Oh, I truly believe that. And, you've known me for a long time, and a lot of the work I do personally with women and clients is about stop, even though I work with entrepreneurs, it's really a spiritual message. It's about stop hiding your light, right? Stop hiding any part of who you are, because I believe as entrepreneurs, we're here to change the world with our unique message. And if we hide and we don't shine like we're talking about now, then we can't help others that are coming up the path. And so I'm so passionate about that, because this is the time now where we all have to own our uniqueness and not compare it to others and feel less than, which I think is, with the social media and everything out there, it's very easy to do. And I have a granddaughter, 7.5, and she's a sensitive. She's an empath. And I just had that conversation with her last week. I said, baby, you weren't meant to be like anyone else. And your friend Annabelle was not either. You're both unique, like a butterfly. There's no two butterflies. She goes, I am. I said, yes, you are. I want her to know that and feel it at that age, and not wake up in one day at 40-something to recognize it. So I love that you brought up about the children. If you're nurturing children or have a role, it's so important.
It is important to allow people to really expand into their potential instead of trying to keep people the same. And that's what I love about this really divine awakening and spiritual energy that we're in right now. Is it's celebrating the unique. It's celebrating our gifts. It's encouraging people to really be seen as who they are and empowering them, because there is power in our uniqueness.
It's so true. And now when you're working with individuals, and I know you do workshops and virtually and online, what is a topic that you feel most people are drawn to? Like, what are they yearning for? Because that tells you what they're struggling with.
A lot of people really struggle with, what's my next step? How do I make a decision? How do I trust myself? And, a lot of times the entry point to that comes in differently. But it seems to boil down to, I receive a message, but I don't know if it's true. Or I think I'm hearing this, but I don't know if I'm accurate. I don't know how to filter all of that energy through my physical body so that I feel confident in making a decision and taking action. There's a lot of either stewing around energetically for people. I see people pulling multiple cards because they can't make a decision. Oracle cards are an amazing tool, but you can also turn into outside validation, right? Because you can't process the information through yourself, or constantly going out for a reading because they want the outside information. They can't process it through their own energetic system. So that's, like I said, there's so many ways that it comes in, but the core of it is, how do I know what is right for my soul and feel confident enough to use that information and take an action?
Oh, it's so true. So it's almost like they're asking for their soul for guidance, but then when they receive it, maybe they get a nudge or a sign or whatever it may be, they then, I think, go into the head. I'll just share from how I used to do it. I go in the head and go, well, that's crazy. You're going to really follow that? Where'd that even come from? Like, I talk myself out of, but I used to do it all the time. And then what I realized for myself is when I was feeling stuck, I would just say, just make the decision, Linda. And I would make it and say it was a yes or no answer. I would just go, yeah, I'm going to pick one and I'm going to take action like you just said, because that's important. But if, say, I picked yes, and all of a sudden I felt a yuckiness in my body, then I'd go, oh, shit. It wasn't yes, it was no. And I could tell then because of the reaction in my body. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it totally makes sense, yeah.
And that's how I had to learn to trust. That helped me listen to my solar plexus area and all that. Because if it was a true yes in alignment with my soul, it was, would have felt expansive, right? So how do you feel it in your body when you get a knowing, because I get knowings, how do you feel it? Is it in your solar plexus?
It's actually
a different
in my
way?
heart. It's actually in my
that's
heart.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, because I either feel expansive or I feel like I literally want to cross my arms in front of my chest and protect my heart.
So how do you know? Here's a question, because I know it comes up. It's come up on my radio show before and with the Aspire audience. So let's say you have your arms crossed in front of you, and that's the vibe you get, right? Here's where a question that comes up often. How do you know in that moment that that's not the old fears and stories of your past, right, coming up because you're stepping out of your comfort zone? How do you know then, right, when it's old crap still coming up to sabotage? Is there a way you tell the difference? Because I had to be so aware of that.
Yeah. Well, that's why I have kind of allowed my heart to guide me, because the heart is our most intuitive muscle. It knows right from wrong. It knows good. And I say good from bad, not in that there's, really, there's no bad. It's all learning opportunities. But it knows what's in our highest good versus it's going to take us longer to get there. For me, when it's anything that has to do with old stories, fear, anxiety, sometimes it's just fear of being successful, outgrowing where
that was a big one for me.
Oh, geez, yes, it absolutely is. That plays around in my solar plexus. So if the energy of the bubbles or, the movement drops down into my solar plexus or even lower, then, sometimes I'll feel it in my hips. I'm like, oh, okay, so something's pushing my family paradigm down here. But it's not, it's something that I need to work through versus it's not in my highest good. And usually for me, the higher my resistance, so the higher the energy is in my lower chakras, the bigger the need for me to do whatever that is.
Yes. I love that you said that. That's how I experience it. Like Linda, this is your next evolution. And it is your soul just saying, hey, it's a little uncomfortable. I'm not going to tell you the journey's going to be perfect, but this is your next step. But the head comes in going, but I'm afraid. But it's a knowing inside, oh no, as uncomfortable as this is. I loved how you just described that. You know it's the next right step.
I know it is. And, I have seen, kind of proven to myself that the bigger my body's resistance is to it, the bigger the opportunity is for me when I say yes anyway and go ahead and do it. Or on the other side of it, sometimes it's a no. And I get this, and then for me it's a little bit more upper chakra where I get into my head of, well, logically it makes sense and I should do this and it's a great opportunity. But my heart and my soul knows that it's not the right place for me to invest my energy. So when I feel myself analyzing too much, then I drop back down into my heart to make that decision, and I have to sometimes just say no.
But I love that you have an organic, intuitive process that you come to trust, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes. And I believe everybody's body has that resonance of something. And, I'll tell a real quick story about learning my own body signals too, in addition to the flow that I just talked about. From the time I was very young, I always thought I had like sinus issues because either my right cheek would kind of feel flushed or full, or my left cheek would feel flushed or full, sometimes both of them. And I just, ignored it. So when I started my spiritual journey, I was playing around with dowsing rods just to learn about energy and flow and direction and following something. And I realized that when the rod said something was either going to the right or it was a yes, my right cheek got very full. And if it was a no or going to the left, my left cheek did. So I realized that's my body's signal to me of yes and no, go right, go left. So it's an additional layer of validation for what my heart is telling me. And I believe that everybody has that. It's a matter of determining and acknowledging what it is.
I love that. It's like you're so tuned in with your body now because you've been working with intuition so long that I just love how you can tune in and tap in and access the channel. And when we come back from our final break, in the last segment, I'd love for you to share a few ways that our listeners can create a stronger relationship with their own intuition. So I'll be right back with Carolyn McGee of CarolynMcGee.com.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Do you feel overwhelmed and unsure about what steps to take to find peace, joy, and purpose in your life? Chris Groth is a spiritual mentor, energy healer, and best-selling author of the novel Soliloquy, a novel of healing, soul connection, and passion, and co-author of several best-selling books. Chris is passionate about helping women connect more deeply to their own truth, to promote healing, and restore balance to the body, heart, mind, and soul, so they can live a soul-connected life. Chris serves clients around the world through spiritual mentoring sessions, energy healings, and powerful custom-guided sound healing meditations that bring in the energy of crystal singing bowls. If you're ready to heal your heart, nurture your soul, and illuminate your path, schedule a complimentary virtual session with Chris today at chrisgroth.com. That's Chris with a K and GROTH.com.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
It took a little getting used to. She has these weird games she likes to play, like this giant feather. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. It's almost like she thinks I enjoy it. But seeing how much fun she gets out of it, well, I guess it makes it all worth it. Humans.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
This is Terry Van Horn, and I want to invite you to join me for my weekly radio show, Healing Light, on OMTimes Radio, every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Healing Light, we want to bring love, light, and blessings into your world. You can find out more about us at www.healinglightonline.com. Blessings.
This is OTR FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and we're talking about intuition and building your trust muscles and really living from the inside out with your intuition as your guide. So, Carolyn, what are a few ways that our listeners can create a stronger relationship with their intuition?
One of the best ways that I have found is to find a way to get quiet. In the very beginning, because I do have that very logical part of myself, I got it stuck in my head that I need to just sit in a chair with a candle in the lotus position and meditate. And it didn't work for me. So what I realized as I was out walking dogs, because I do have the pet business, is a walking meditation allows myself to have my brain kind of have an activity, but I can tap into that inner wisdom that floats in a more gentle way. So finding a way for you to satisfy your ego, your logical brain, and connect in with the information that is flowing through your body.
I love that, because I'm like you. I can't sit on a meditation. I've never been able to meditate in the traditional explanation of meditation.
Right. And because I was battling myself and trying to make myself do it, it wasn't working. And, and some teachers also were saying you need to learn how to do this. And once I followed my own heart and my own intuition, I realized that, there's a million ways to connect with the divine. It's a matter of just asking for it and then being open to receive it. And
exactly like you said, walking's a meditation. But I just wrote something in my easing. Washing dishes by hand has become my meditation.
Yeah,
right. It's the intention. Yeah, but I'm shocked, right? Because it was such a beautiful moment when I realized that simple act, I am in a meditative state. When I'm fully present and feeling that cup in my hands or that dish, I realize that's meditation. When I go sit on the dock for 5 minutes to enjoy just the breeze on my face or the pond, that's meditation. So I love that you shared that story, because I bet there are many other listeners who judge themselves for not being able to meditate the way they believe they should. There is no right way. It's the way that feels good to you.
Yeah, it's the way that allows your energy to connect in. It's really powerful. And then the second piece that I want to mention is journaling. I had this thing in my mind of I'm not a writer. But, journaling can be making notes. You can make bullet points. It's cataloging and documenting information that's going to create all of the different puzzle pieces. The way our intuition and the divine works oftentimes is we get messages in bite-sized pieces. And we can also start to see patterns and repetition. So when you're journaling and just kind of keeping note of things, it allows it to stay in your awareness so that you can then pull together, what's that common theme? What am I seeing in here? And it helps so much also to be able to go back and validate the trust that you were right. Oh, look at this. I said this in my journal, and there you go. It happened. It might take a week. It might take a year, but you've got it there so that you can validate what you're feeling. And it's so empowering to do that.
Yeah, writing down the signs and synchronicities that come. I like to have a conversation with my heart and a conversation with my fear in my journal, right? Like if something's bothering me and there's a fear, I'm like, okay, talk to me. I see you. What's your message? And then I may believe it's talking back to me and I just let it flow. But instead of making it big in my head, the journal has become a place that I can have these, I can release it all. So I agree, journaling is major, and you can do it in the way that works for you.
Mhm. Yeah, it's so powerful.
So here's a question for you.
Yes.
Well, how do you know, we were just talking about, how do you know the voices in your head, like I said about fear? How do you know if it's logic or intuition? Does it come back to feeling it in your body, as you shared earlier, or do you have anything else to add to that, too?
You know, it's really feeling it in your body. And, you know, when I'm teaching, I actually have this really cool little exercise that we do so that people can feel in their head where it's logic, because it's going to resonate with a certain energy. It may pulse, it may get more dense. And then when you're meditating, when you're connecting to source, a different part of your brain, a different part of your head is going to feel energized. And it's instantaneous. And every single person that I have done this exercise with feels the difference.
So then once they learn that, as they go through life making decisions, you gave them the power to feel what the decision is like, because they're feeling it in their body.
Yeah, it's just an awareness of where, you know, when I am in that logical energy, where in my brain where in my head, because sometimes it's not just the brain, it might be different. It's different for everybody. Where is that energized? Where do I feel that? And when I am in meditative receiving mode, where do I feel that? And it's just so powerful for people because it's a confirmation, it's a validation.
Yeah, it's something that they can identify as theirs instead of receiving outside wisdom. They're like, oh, I can feel this, so this is really mine. It belongs to me, and I can trust it.
Yes, it's so empowering for people. And, you know, that's what I want to do. I want to teach so that people have the tools to make those decisions on their own, using their own wisdom, of course.
Of course. Now, I want to talk about, in the last few minutes that we have, you have a Facebook group. Can you share the name of the Facebook group? Because you offer so much in there, and wisdom and resources, and you do Facebook Lives. Share the name of your Facebook group so they can find you.
Sure. It's called Enhance Your Intuition.
Yeah, she does amazing, these Facebook Lives, and sometimes she gives us a little homework. I'm in there. She gives homework to help you enhance your intuition. So you will love it. I encourage you to visit her Facebook group, join it. Go to CarolynMcGee.com for more about Carolyn's services and everything she's up to. She's a magical mama, and I know you'll enjoy being connected to her. And my beautiful friend, it seems like we could continue this conversation for hours.
Absolutely.
I want to thank you for being here with me today, for sharing your wisdom, for sharing those tips and strategies, and for sharing your own journey and helping our listeners understand that they do have their own superpower and intuitive superpower. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here and to share this divine wisdom.
And I want to invite everyone. Join me every Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, live on the OMTimes network, or you can catch the replay on all podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts. Just look for Linda Joy in the Inspired Conversations show, and you will find us on those platforms. Until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, and choose happiness.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.